All right. Hey, what's going on today? I hope you are having an awesome day. Stephen Christopher here, along with Davis from the Awesome Wit team, with today's episode of Home Service Success TV. As always, we got another really great interview for you today. We're going to talk a little bit about his story and a little bit about what his company is doing to really make an impact in the home service industry as far as converting leads online. So today's guest is an engineer by trade and by schooling, graduated from Villanova, has an MBA, and then while he was in school there, met a really good friend named Austin, who is the co-founder of the company that he started, or the CEO and founder of the company that our guest today is a partner in. And today's guest also worked for Carrier as a sales engineer early on. So got access to seeing how the home service industry worked, how the trades industry worked, and fell in love with it and said, what can we do better here? What's something that, we can use our skills for to help this industry and solve a problem? And that's what they did. They founded a company called Schedule Engine that helps customers book more quickly online. So in today's modern world, when people don't want to pick up the phone and call quite as much, in comes this solution. So without further ado, welcome please today, Ray Clark from Schedule Engine. Ray, what's up, brother?
What's going on, man? It's been a while. Always great to reconnect, and thanks for the kind words. Excited to be on here. We were talking before, some amazing guests, Adam Flaherty, Chris Crew, Drew Cramer, Trevor Flanagan. So it's always exciting following some of their footsteps. Big shoes to fill, but excited to join today.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, and look, you're doing great things. You're passionate about the industry, and you just care. That's the criteria, right? Like, let's make an impact on an industry that's often underserved and bring some really cool stuff to them and see what we can do to help them live better lives and at the same time convert more leads, grow digitally, all that kind of fun stuff. So awesome, man. Why don't you give us just a brief little overview of kind of like your background and how this whole company thing got started? And then I know Davis is going to take us into some of the nitty gritty that can really help people that are listening.
Yeah, absolutely. So to your point, and actually I completely ended up in home services by happenstance. So studied engineering, like the analytics of it, and a lot of summers too. I would work construction, always liked working with my hands. So school's ending, looking to get that first real job. And a buddy of mine got a job with Carrier. And at the time I heard Carrier, I'm like, is that AT&T, like a phone carrier? And he's like, just take the job. They're asking, it's a Philadelphia office. And they just wanted to know, do I have any friends? So I referred you. Took the interview, not really knowing what Carrier was. And the role was a technical sales engineer. So I was able to use what I studied and paid for, but also had that exposure to business. And I knew I'd be working and creating relationships. Long story short, took the job. I was interested. And a lot of what I was doing, man, Carrier, kudos to them. So one of the big OEM manufacturers, like 6 months up at Carrier Circle in Syracuse, learning, zoning, heat load calculations, heat pumps versus furnace, the chillers. So it was a true industry deep dive. For 3 or 4 years, I spent basements with contractors working on chillers, walking Philadelphia school districts, measuring outside air openings and counting, PTAC units and stuff, and working also with some MEP engineers on design load calculation. So all things considered, when I look back, I really feel that experience gave me so much exposure, not only to the industry, but what contractors do on a day-to-day basis, working and partnering with them to bid on jobs, especially as you get into some of the commercial side, but also just understanding like what contractors go through, the importance of that homeowner relationship. So that was really my foothold into the industry. And looking back, I really wouldn't trade it for the world.
Man, that's
awesome.
So
cool, man.
Yeah, so you stepped inside the shoes of your current customer, right? The folks that you provide for. So in that experience, did you identify a need for online scheduling, or did that come later?
So I would say that came a little bit later. So this is going back early, 2010 to 2013-ish era. And I had exposure to both residential and commercial. So when I thought about the contractor, one of the biggest things, I had exposure to was these are really freaking smart people. And the operational complexity of dispatching blew my mind. when you think about the art and science of you are as efficient or as profitable as, you could be with where and when you're sending technicians. A lot of contractors still using whiteboards, right? And whether it was a startup, an install, or replacement, me not being a dispatcher, kind of on the sales engineer side, would help a contractor win a job. And man, just to schedule startups and miscommunicating schedules and the dispatcher, I'm like, whoa. So I didn't put two and two together, but looking back, I certainly realized a lot of those inefficiencies that existed, but really appreciated how smart these contractors and owners were and what they needed to do operationally on a day-to-day. And it was actually through Carrier that I went back to school at night to pursue my MBA. And lo and behold, that's where I met a gentleman named Austin Haller. No coincidence. Austin is the founder and CEO of Schedule Engine. And we still joke to this day. We had a pretty small cohort, which was nice. And we started meeting people. It's like finance, investment banking, Vanguard, this. And Carrier, his family business, Haller Enterprises, trades, similar in age. We became good friends. So, even pre-Schedule Engine, we both hit it off. We were in the same industry. Ironically, during that time, I won't take credit for it. Haller might have switched over to Carrier during that time and became a big Carrier dealer. But it was really through the completion of that program where buzzwords like disruption, innovation, the Uber effect, Uberization really started taking off. And Austin, genius, grew up in the trades, right? From a service tech to doing all these other roles at his parents' business. And I mean, it was his father, Rick, that started Haller. So Haller does HVAC, electrical, plumbing. They're probably 50% res, 50% commercial in a good old Lancaster County, East Coast, South Central Pennsylvania. And now Austin grew up in it. His father started at one truck, like many people are doing today, going out their own, and has grown Haller to like a couple hundred employee organization. So Austin's seen a lot. And then he really realized, your question, Davis, like when did you were working with contractors who are now who you're partnering with, when did you kind of see that divide in customer experience? And it was Austin who realized that same homeowner, Amazon Prime, probably Netflix, Spotify, especially with COVID right now, everything is done online. And it's not just millennials, right? My grandma uses emojis. She's on Facebook. Convenience will win, and you can't unlearn convenience, right? So Austin, 5 years ago, really realized, didn't know what it was yet, that there was this growing gap because there's a lot of great dispatch softwares in the back end, Service Titan, SamPro, SuccessWare, ESC, Field Edge, right? You name them on the back end, SA-Win, that help contractors run their business. And then you got the with digitals of the world, right? That figuring out that digital marketing landscape. Google's always changing. And the problem we found was, well, your customers, they expect that same Amazon experience. And from a contractor, when I'm driving all this traffic to my website, if I at some point need to force that customer to call in and I'm trying to funnel all my business over the phone during normal business hours, something's going to break. So that's really where Schedule Engine was pioneered. Austin firsthand seeing that gap growing between the services contractors were offering and the experience customers expected. And enter Schedule Engine. We had a few names before Schedule Engine stuck. Fix Now Pro, I think, was the first iteration. So it's been a fun ride.
I love how like looking back, we can look at those names that we had. Cause I think everybody listening, everybody that's ever had a business or even worked for a business, like you watch those iterations and it's always cool to look back on them. It's sometimes frustrating in the moment when you're trying to pick, but it's just really cool to see those iterations and what you actually land on and move forward with. And it worked really well.
Finally, it's funny because you can't not look at Uber, right? If you're a startup, you're like, Uber, one word, sexy, cool. And then finally we dumbed it down. We're like, what do we do? Schedule Engine. It stuck. Sean Harmon, he was one of our first 4 employees. He's our, UI, UX interface, creative genius. And he came up with a kick-ass logo for it too. And we're like, boom, that's it. One less decision we have to make, and let's just keep going. So
awesome.
Yeah, I love the cog with the S. It just makes sense. You know what it is right off the bat, no questions.
The funniest things that happen. So Service Titan is such a common name in our industry now.
Yeah.
The number one thing we get is Service Engine or Search Engine, or like Schedule Engine, but we know what they're talking about.
Oh yeah.
Well, Ray,
hey, we changed our company name based on the first iteration over 4 years being hard to say. It used to be called Sequus before we named it WIT. And so sometimes you just learn, you change later in life, and all is good.
Wise words from Stephen Christopher per usual.
Oh, dude, I've been through a lot of name changes in my life.
Well, cool. Right. I think that's just such an awesome origin story, you know, that you and Austin both had backgrounds, but different backgrounds in the trades. And you both kind of were exposed to the finance, like the fast technology industry that's, you know, very technology forward, and comparing that with the trades. And you're like, well, gee, they're still doing things like it's 1990, where finance is doing things like it's, you know, 2016 at the time. And you just immediately, like, it clicked, right? Like, there's huge opportunity here to serve this industry with the technology that we know will help them, you know, succeed and make their operations a lot easier. So man, that is just so cool.
Yeah, one of the I'd be remiss if I didn't say it. So something that is in our DNA and continues to be at the forefront of everything is for contractors by contractors. And what I don't think we'd be here if we were just two guys outside the industry who wanted to attack this customer experience problem, because our industry, we were joking before, it's $1 trillion. There's so much opportunity, and that's what gets me out of bed in the morning to obviously help contractors and help the industry. But for how big it is, it's so small. And contractors, right? I mean, firsthand have been burned before, and Austin can speak to that. And so often it's technologies trying to be done to contractors versus done for them or with them to help them change and them grow, right? And a big part of that, so Eddie McFarland was another co-founder of co-founder of Schedule Engine, who has been with Haller Enterprises, Austin's family business, for 20ish years. He was a chef in the past life, has a charming Scottish accent. If you know Eddie, he's on the board of ACA, the board of NATE, and it's people like Eddie who always make sure that the problems we're solving, we're not approaching it isolated in a vacuum. We have our contractor hat on, and for contractors, online scheduling's been around, right? The problem is some off-the-shelf solutions that might work for a dentist or doctor, 30-minute teeth cleaning, customers come to you, so much different, right, than the exponential issues that could go wrong between a furnace, a heat pump, and the varied skill sets of technicians, right? So the cool thing about the problems we've solved and we're continuing to solve, we're not teaching homeowners a foreign concept, right? Just like you book your Starbucks coffee or your Chipotle burrito, go ahead and book your HVAC, electrical, or plumbing appointment. The problem was the contractors haven't figured out, the industry, right, hasn't figured out how to use online booking in a way that not only makes it convenient for the customer, but keeps the contractor in control. And like, that's the most important part. It's not like open the floodgate, contractor, good luck. It's let's do the same thing that you train your CSRs to do over the phone, but through Schedule Engine, right?
Gotcha. Yeah, and just so the audience is clear, like, to be specific, Schedule Engine, you know, it's an online scheduling assistant. So there's a button on the website or on an ad that's displayed that says schedule service now. And then they go in, they might answer, you know, there's probably a custom form behind it, and they answer a few questions, book a time, and then that goes directly to dispatch.
Spot on, Davis. You can start doing my pitches for me now. But no, yeah, to anyone listening, and I don't want to get too deep, and I also don't want to make this just all about Schedule Engine, but I'm always a big fan of before and after. Before Schedule Engine, like, online booking has such a loose definition, and usually it's a form fill. Some companies make them look a lot better than others, but at the end of the day, we usually have some means of a contact form on our website, because if we're putting that on there, we're admitting certain people don't want to call us, right? And unfortunately, the best that a lot of contractors can do is have that trigger an email that goes to their back office staff, their CSRs, dispatchers. And what do we train our call centers to do? Speed to lead. So it's so counterintuitive to me, and it blows my mind. And it's not the contractor's fault, right? It's complicated that we admit people don't want to call us, triggers an email, yet we call them back. And it's this kind of inevitable black hole. So all we're trying to do is really provide an online booking experience that's configured to match the same exact questions your CSR would ask. But why require a callback? If someone comes to your website just because they want to book, let's let them book a real appointment. In many cases, we can integrate it back into a Service Titan, Successware, ESC, right? All these dispatch softwares. And now from a CSR's perspective, I'm answering the phone, maybe I'm responding to chats. One less thing I have to do. That's a book job, and that's a 10-minute phone call I saved. So at scale, yes, it's a better experience, but we're taking so much pressure off these call centers and helping the CSR teams be more proactive and reactive. So that's really where we thrive, is putting an online booking experience, white labeled, schedule engines behind the scenes, integrates right into your WIT digital website, and it's business as usual from your contractor. Now you got one more CSR in the bullpen. Your digital CSR schedule engine never calls out sick 24/7 and asks the right questions every time. So that's the high level on what schedule engine is for anyone unfamiliar.
Well, and I know Stephen and I can speak from the marketing perspective of more and more customers are converting online. They're not converting over a phone call as often, and they're also making their key decisions online through reviews. Contractors are building their reputation online now. So the whole entire customer decision-making process is all online and more than often on their phone, right? When they're sitting in their bathroom and remember that leak, right? So it's just changed, and Schedule Engine fits in with that conversion funnel so much better than us asking, okay, like we've got them converted, we've built their trust, all they have to do now is make a phone call. Well, actually, the phone call is a big part of that, where a lot of things can go wrong, or it's not the right time of day, that the contractor is going to be actually picking up those calls. So it just actually, from a marketing perspective, simplifies the whole process. And to your point, Ray, the customer experience as well.
Yeah.
I mean, here's one thing that I'll say for anybody listening to make this really simple is because there's overwhelm, right, Ray? I mean, it's like, okay, do I choose Schedule Engine, or maybe I have something else and maybe I don't want to change. Maybe I want to keep it. How do I make it better? Like, the contractors have a million things on their to-do list that they are never going to get to, and it freaks them out when they look at it. I know, just from my standpoint, and probably from yours too, like our to-do list is always going to be bigger than what we can do, right? So to make this really simple and showcase the importance of paying attention to the topic we're talking about, right? I mean, we love Schedule Engine, but this isn't a pitch for Schedule Engine. This is talking about this big topic about online booking and customer experience and all of these pieces. So for you listening right now or watching, grab your phone, go to your website, see how people can potentially contact you. Okay, do you have a phone number? Is it clickable? If you click it, does it pop up? Can people call, or is that broken? I mean, those things are broken all the time. Now go to how else can they book besides calling? Do you go to the contact tab and then you put your name and email address in? Okay, well, go and actually do that and see what the experience is. What's the page that shows up next? Who gets the email? What's your reply email? What does your CSR do? Put in a fake name and your phone number and see if they actually call you back. Like, just look at the basics of how many leads you're potentially missing just based on the setup that you have right now. We forget to do that. So we get all overwhelmed with what software do we choose, or is this the most important thing for me to do right now? Well, I don't know. Maybe it is and maybe it's not, but that's a really easy way to get an idea of what the heck is going on with your website right now. And, I know my perspective, when I do that with people, it's always terrible. They're like, holy cow, I'm losing like ridiculous amounts of leads right here. Or the email's broken. It doesn't even go anywhere. So, just think about that. If you're listening, like, just literally go to your website on your mobile phone and go through the experience. And look, if Schedule Engine seems like a good fit for you, great, go check it out, go do the demo, all that kind of fun stuff. But like, just pay attention to like, what are you actually missing right now? Because chances are you haven't looked at your own experience in quite some time.
Well, and one other little tidbit to add on that point is that, with Google ads, whether it's local service ads or PPC, or even with paid social ads, more and more we're finding conversion happening directly within an ad. So people aren't even going to your website all the time. A lot of times they're just, looking at your Google review, clicking schedule now directly within Google. So that really tightens up that decision-making and conversion funnel to the point where, they can find an ad and click schedule now. It goes directly to a scheduling software like Schedule Engine, and that's it from a customer experience perspective.
So Ray, you guys hook into ads so you can schedule directly through, like, you guys can schedule directly through ads?
Yeah, so what we do, and I'm no digital marketing expert, but I believe we call it a deep link. So essentially, if I'm homeowner, I'm Ray, something's broken, I'm gonna come to Davis's website, Davis Plumbing, inbound, go to the website and open that CTA and be engaged in a modern online booking experience. We know, and you two know much better than I do, man, that funnel's huge and that net's wide. Maybe it's social media, their Facebook page, maybe it's an ad on social, maybe it's Google PPC. So really anywhere that you might have normally today linked them to your website, our online booking still exists on your website. We're not taking people to a schedule engine third party, but any of these CTAs, we can deep link it. So when they click that, they're going to go to your website, but we're automatically going to open and engage them in the online booking experience. So Davis, to your point, it's about shortening that journey and removing friction. So we have a lot of success with people. So this is actually pretty cool. And we got this idea from a contractor in Iowa. So she started putting, and I feel like they're coming back. I've always been a big fan of QR codes. So with restaurants right now in COVID, right? No menus half the time. You take the picture of the menu and it pops up QR code. So how do we book PMs today, right? Normally it's a hodgepodge of emails, phone calls, direct mail for a contractor, right? So with direct mail, they started putting QR codes, book with us, so people can take out their iPhone. Everyone's camera comes with a QR code these days. And when they do it on their QR code, it automatically opens the website and engages them with the online booking process, which is like a web app. It feels very modern and engaging. So I'm going on a little bit of a tangent, Stephen, but to your point, whether it's an ad, a constant contact, or MailChimp email they send, whatever today you might do to remind people to call you or drive them here, you can use, right, where applicable, just an online booking experience, shorten the journey, like Davis said, and maximize your conversion.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know we have some data on this of like when we send direct through scheduling versus like different pages of the website. And it definitely works. And to anybody listening, I would say test it, right? If you're sending out an email marketing or a text marketing or, QR codes, you bring up an interesting point, right? Like QR codes kind of died. Everybody's got their personal opinion on them, but now they're definitely coming back, right? People are using them all over the place. And who knows, maybe that's something that we need to pay more close attention to that could change over the next 3 to 5 years. People could keep using them forever now. But yeah, the ability to send directly to a link in some of your marketing is huge.
And when we can track that, and right, you can, with digital, can continue to provide value to the client and show true ROI attributed to different marketing campaigns. Like that's when everything works great together, because the schedule engine was coming in, bowling a China shop and, doing our own thing, or, you got to do this, this, and this. That's where adoption becomes an issue. But when we can really fit into the existing ecosystem, hey, I'm using a service titan and I'm using with digital, fit schedule engine right in the middle. So now you got a nice funnel. With digital is going to take them, nurture them. Schedule engine is going to automatically convert them. And we're going to get that book job in your dispatch software, allow your team, business as usual, no downtime, keep running and keep growing, right? Which is what we all want.
Yep.
I got to throw a quick shout out to Service Emperor because they're one of our shared clients that's doing exactly that, Ray. They're working with WIT and they're working with Schedule Engine and they've grown, I think, 250% since doing this. And I know their online conversions have increased substantially and are a big part of that growth. And Service Emperor also is 100% remote. We had a conversation with them a couple weeks ago. So they don't really even have like a centralized call center. They're doing everything technology focused and forward. So it's just cool to see, our shared clients adopt this and see the success behind it. So.
Tersh is mind blowing. I first met Tersh, through Steven and the CEO Warrior community over there. Tersh obviously has nothing but awesome things to say about with digital. And I heard Tersh on a podcast too, talk about how he even has, is it storage units he's bought on like the edge of his service territory so he can reduce travel. Like it's brilliant. But to your point, when contractors want to push the boundaries, one of my favorite quotes I heard, I think this was from like Innovation Festival by Fast Company a while back. When we think about technology adoption, our goal is to use technology to automate like the lower value customer interactions, monotonous activities, not get rid of employees, but we want to help CSRs, amplify their time on what they determine to be higher value customer experiences, right? Because if I have two CSRs working for me, answering the phones, and they're doing 10 things today, and at the end of every day, they're calling back 25 leads because they came in last night. Like, they're not converting all 25 of those leads, right? And their time could be better spent following up on open quotes or trying to do other stuff. So we can help automate the online booking process, even preventative maintenance scheduling. Like, that's where the magic happens. And that's where contractors, whether it's like Tersh at Service Emperor or other organizations, can, push the boundaries and maximize like the employees and the team they have. So, you know what I'd love to hear from you guys. So one of our vice presidents, Strickland Tutor, Strick for short, we were flying to Arizona last week, and he sent me a McKinsey article, and it was talking about COVID. And I mean, everyone, like, buzzwords, the new normal, all this stuff. But what was really interesting about this article, so say in the past like 3 years, technology, like digital transformation, technology adoption has grown like X amount. In the last 6 months, we've like exceeded digital transformation and technology adoption equal to that of like the past 3 years. So, everything that you two have said, Stephen and Davis, about, shortening the journey and all these other things, like the hyper growth we just went through in the past 6 months, new normal aside, has really shifted the way that people are used to interacting with contractors. A lot of contractors we talk to are doing virtual sales appointments, and are one contractor in Rhode Island, a sales manager told me they're hiring 3 new salespeople, only virtual, right? And they're finding ways to adapt. And instead of maybe coming to a home and the homeowner sits on the couch and salesperson goes and walks around, like, they're engaged the whole time. And, hey, Mrs. Homeowner, take the phone and go over there, and have your kid grab the tape measure and measure the room for me and stuff. So point being, we're seeing so much interesting stuff come at this kind of forced hand of COVID. And I'm kind of wondering what you guys are seeing from your end when you think about digital marketing trends.
Yeah, well,
Dude.
certainly, there is no longer much of a commute. So when a lot of the outside advertising that we used to do and support has gone by the wayside. So a lot of the budget distribution elements have changed significantly, and we've really had to stay ahead of that in terms of, okay, people are spending more time on their glowing devices, right? So how do we capture them there? And how do we, the glowing devices as a kind of a saturated market, right? Especially if you look at social. So it's about, and the dynamic on socials change, with politics being so much at the forefront of our culture. So it's a matter of culturally breaking through in terms of like the conversation that you want to have with your potential customer online on that glowing device, but also where those conversations are happening. To your point, Ray, has completely changed. And I also think from a consumer perspective, the expectations with how you're going to interact with your contractor has also changed significantly. So that's like Ray, your story about them essentially having a FaceTime, walking through the house, doing kind of figuring out what the problem is and what the right solution is going to be. That a year ago even would have been like, this is kind of weird. Like, I barely FaceTime. And if I do, it's with, my kid, my son, or what have you.
Right.
Yeah. But now we're FaceTiming with everybody. I mean, we're doing everything virtual. So the way that we're interacting really as a society has changed. So you need to kind of, as a business owner and from a business standpoint, be ready and prepared to have that same level of interaction with your customers.
Yeah, I think the big overarching theme that I kind of pull out of this, right, is be flexible, right? And the people that are the most flexible over the time are generally the ones that win, including, everywhere from just business in general, all the way down to what are they doing for their marketing. So think about back when the Yellow Pages was around and Google pay-per-click came out. And those people that were flexible and leaned into this new thing that 95% probably, Ray, I mean, wouldn't you think like 95 to 99% of contractors are like, what's this Google pay-per-click thing? Like, that's the dumbest thing ever. And not just contractors, like most business owners. So, but the ones that leaned into stuff like that and started taking money out of their Yellow Pages and noticed that those were going down, started taking maybe a little bit of money from like TV or radio because the cost per acquisition was so much lower. I mean, there was companies that grew from 3, 4, 5 million to like 30, 40, 50 million, literally just on the back of Google pay-per-click. So I think the lesson that I pull out of like what's happening right now in these trends is we don't know where things are going to be in 3 or 6 or 9 months, because we don't know how people are going to be feeling. We don't know, I mean, there's a lot of stuff like, right. We're coming up on an election. We got COVID everywhere. We got lockdowns. We got, Melbourne's going crazy right now. Like there's just so many unknowns. So I think the lesson is to be flexible and not be so rigid in what we're doing today and continuing to do it tomorrow. And, that's one of the things you guys are doing great. You're using data to make changes to like the UI and the UX, which the user experience and the layout of the site based on how people are interacting with it. So even though today your user experience is optimized really well and the conversion rates are like perfect on it, in 3 months, maybe it's different. Like, I don't know, maybe some sort of new device comes out and everybody starts using that, or 5G crashes and like nobody's using cell phones. So you've got to redesign it. So I think the big thing for me is just being flexible. Like there's never a perfect right answer, right? Like what's the best marketing thing to do? But it's just being flexible and keeping up with the trends and using the data to see what's working and what's not. Because kind of to Davis's point, like what we're seeing is, we saw a huge drop in things like billboards, bus station ads. People weren't out and about, and that's coming back a little bit. What's that, Davis?
I was gonna say even vehicle wraps, which was always such a big point.
True. Yeah, I didn't think about that.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, you're not getting as many calls from driving around the neighborhood or driving around, in your city as you were before. So just thinking through the basics of like, okay, where are people? What are they doing? How are they interacting? Use as much data as you can. But most of it's common sense. Like to Davis's point, everybody's home now. People are watching more streaming TV, right? Netflix and stuff. So, we've been able to put a little bit more towards stuff like that people were spending on billboards or radio, like drive time radio kind of crashed and burned for a little while there because nobody was driving. So I think it's just pay attention. And, one little thing that we noticed, I haven't looked at the data on this probably in the last month, but we noticed in the beginning of COVID is that searches on desktop actually went back up. Not saying that they, eclipsed mobile or anything like that, but we noticed this big increase in searches from desktop, which normally we optimize everything primarily for mobile. So we just paid attention to it and said, okay, is there anything we need to do on desktop? But yeah, we just keep seeing little things like that. But dude, nobody knows what's going to happen by the end of this year. So just watch your metrics, track your phone calls, see what's working, see what's not working, and be extremely, extremely flexible.
Amen to that.
Yeah. That's all I got on that.
Mic dropped.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I think that's the biggest one for me is like, nobody knows what's going to happen. Just be flexible. It's probably some of the best advice that I can give to our clients and even us right now.
Yeah. One of the interesting trends we've seen too is, I mean, we've always had a skilled labor shortage, right? That's arguably the number one issue. And what we've also been hearing more and more of recently, months, maybe even the past year or so, like really hard to find good CSRs and office staff too. And it's not just ramping your field labor, peak season, shoulder season. A lot of times it has to do with CSRs too. We've had contractors who have lost a CSR mid-peak season and, roughly onboarded schedule at the same time. So we find, if you think about total daily call volume, we probably aggregate 20 to 30% of booking volume, through Schedule Engine, which is pretty significant from a CSR saving. So we've had contractors say, because of Schedule Engine, right, we didn't have to hire another CSR, right? And not that we're trying to prevent or compete against human labor, but you lose a staff or you got to make decisions and you want to grow. To your point, you want to be flexible. That's where technology is so good from an infrastructure, because a human, as funny as it sounds, I can only talk to one person over the phone, right? Schedule Engine, man, 1,000 customers book online at the same point, right? We don't care. So it's certainly interesting. And I would totally, like, around the horn, echo that sentiment of flexibility and adaptability. Like the more agile you can be, the better prepared. And shocker, everything makes sense. Like you said, like I'm listening to you and Davis talk about like billboards are down. Yeah, people aren't driving, right? So react and pivot. So it's cool.
Yeah. And I love, this is something I pulled out of what you just said when it comes to the human side, especially with CSRs, right? So business and lead volume right now for most home service companies, or at least in each area for home services, is up, right? People are in their home more, they're using it, they're having plumbing issues, they're looking around saying, oh my gosh, we got to fix that, or we got to add that, or it's time to redo the bathroom, or, maybe it's finally time to get a new air conditioning unit and something like that, because it's just been worn out. So lead volume overall is up. So now if you lose a CSR, there's a couple cool things. One, something like Schedule Engine. You have some sort of a technology to help take that workload. But what if you are just so busy because of all the new leads that you're getting? How do you deal with that? So you add something like Schedule Engine, but then when you think about the fact that we're living in this COVID world of flexibility, well, now you can get a CSR from a different city. They don't have to be there. So now we have access to a labor force as well that can help manage things like that from different areas. So we're not having to pull only from our little geographic area. Now we have like this whole US or even overseas that we can pull from. So we have access to even greater talent. So as people are thinking right now, like people should be thinking about exponential growth. So how do I grow on all fronts? How do I grow technology wise, people wise, technician wise, like all of that kind of stuff? It's just, it's cool stuff to think about right now.
Goes back to the industry and the opportunity. We're kind of at that prime for digital transformation, right? It might scare some people, but there's just so much opportunity. And when you talk about the yellow pages in Google, I compare that to like websites too. And I was listening to some podcast, and most people can agree, right? If you're trying to sell someone something, you don't sell them on fear, you sell them an opportunity. And like, I'm probably going to steal that line, Stephen, because when you think about it, it's not, yes, there's a threat. Look at Blockbuster. If you don't innovate, competitor is going to beat you first, or the market's going to do it to you. History repeats itself. But when you think about contractors, it's all about opportunity, because there's, we're working with a couple hundred contractors and some really amazing organizations, but the industry's huge, hundreds of thousands of contractors, right? And probably the contractors listening to this podcast are still the 1%, 2%, 5%. So there's just so much opportunity, not even online scheduling, just removing friction from the journey, staying in front of your customers, and being flexible. So those that catch on now are going to be in a really good position.
Yeah, man, I couldn't agree more.
And for the record, I know we're coming close to time. Davis, dude, I would have guessed you've been working out with digital for like 4 or 5 years, man. And that's a compliment.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it.
Is that because he has long hair because he doesn't get haircuts anymore with COVID, or is that just
exactly.
I think a combination of both, but no, I am eyeing that with digital hat. I think we got to do a little bit of a swag exchange coming up.
Oh, dude. Yeah.
Sure.
Something that you talk about, just thinking about staying in front of customers and just looking in the market and innovating. So general sales, right? You think emails, phones, and stuff. And it's always the cyclical game of trying to find and be in the places with like the least saturation. So contractors, right? People have been saying direct mail is terrible conversion. So you go to email and then call your customers, and like QR codes, you see these like trends of direct mail making a comeback. We've been big fans of Schedule Engine right now, of just using direct mail in our own campaigns and trying to send contractor swag, stay top of mind, right?
Yeah.
The FedEx thing that comes right plop on their desk. So we can absolutely get some swag over to the With Digital team.
Well, I'd love that, and you're so right about that. We've noticed the same thing. We're sometimes handwriting notes to prospects. It's like got to break through somehow, and that's a good point. Stay just ahead of the curve.
Right, and it's gonna come back. Right, it's a cycle. So you just got to try to stay in front of it.
Well, cool guys. This was an awesome conversation, Ray. It's always a pleasure talking with you. So give folks a quick heads up on where they can find you and Schedule Engine. I know scheduleengine.com, but how can people get more information?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can go to www.scheduleengine.com, request a demo there. Also, Ray, easy to spell, 3 letters, RAY, Ray at scheduleengine.com. I'm feeling my afternoon coffee kicked in. I'll even give out my cell. 717-278-5573. Conversations like this is the fun part, man. When you can just talk to people about the industry. I don't want to go to my next meeting. I'm trying to hang on and milk every minute here. But no, if anyone wants to reach out, scheduleengine.com. We are redoing our website. Email me directly, ray at scheduleengine.com, or again, my cell, 717-278-5573. So schedule engine related or not, always looking forward to good conversations. So
awesome, man. Yeah, Ray, we appreciate you always being willing to serve first, not necessarily just sell. That's huge for us. And we're the exact same way. Like, the whole industry needs more people that are just willing to help contractors make really good decisions that are best for them. And we appreciate that you do that.
awesome. Thank you, gentlemen. This was a pleasure.
All right, man. Awesome. Well, hey, we really appreciate you taking time out of your day to listen or watch this. I really, really hope that you got value out of it. Make sure to hit us up with any other questions that you might have, people that would be great interviews, and just anything that we can do or anybody we can bring on that will add value to you. So let's go through our wrap up today of a couple key takeaways that I got out of this episode with Ray Clark from Schedule Engine. So you are as efficient and as profitable as your ability to send your team to go do jobs. So Ray said that in the very beginning. And at first I wrote it down. I was like, okay, wait a minute. It kind of makes sense, but let me think about it. And so when you just really think about it, it's as simple as that. You're as efficient and profitable as your ability to book and send people to jobs. And so using technology similar to Schedule Engine to make that happen faster and faster is going to make you more efficient and more profitable, both from a people resources, but also from a financial resources place. Convenience will always win, and you can't unlearn convenience. So think about this. Everybody, I'm assuming you've shopped on Amazon. So once you shopped on Amazon a couple times, think if that just went away and you couldn't go back to shopping on Amazon, it'd be super, super frustrating. And that's exactly what is happening out there. So if you're not paying attention to how you can make it more convenient and easier for customers to book with you, your competition is doing this and they're never going to be able to go back. So even if you've had a client for 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 years, if they have to book or get to book with somebody else for some reason and it's way more convenient, they're not coming back to you. So convenience will always win, and you can't unlearn convenience. I really, really like that one that he shared. And then kind of this overarching theme that we had towards the end around just like technology, push the boundaries, lean into uncomfort, lean into the unknown, because if you're not doing it, somebody else is going to be doing it. And I know it feels like things are moving really fast right now and there's a lot of uncertainty and a lot of unknown, but just lean into it and take advantage of the technology that we have out there. Take advantage of services like Schedule Engine. Take advantage of these types of things, lean into them, test them, and see if they work. Just use the data to determine if it works, but lean into these, all of these opportunities and all these changes, and make sure that you're pushing boundaries right now. Ray mentioned one thing from an article, I believe it was from McKinsey, that in the last 6 months, we've evolved basically from a technology standpoint as much as we did in the previous 3 years. And none of us could have really seen COVID coming. So this stuff can happen all the time. So just take advantage of it right now, push the boundaries, lean into the unknown, and just enjoy it. Enjoy the ride. We might as well. We're all on this roller coaster together. So again, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to hang out with Davis and I on today's episode of Home Service Success TV with Ray Clark from Schedule Engine. Have an awesome rest of your day.